What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Comm Chatter. I am so excited for my guest today. I've been watching his comedy group, Aunty Donna, on YouTube since before I started my channel. I love his absurd sense of humor, and you can watch him on Netflix right now in the premiere season of Aunty Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun. It is Mark Bonanno. How are you, Mark?
I'm great, mate. Thank you so much for having me here. This is a true thrill. I've also been watching your things as I'm a little bit of a nerd, and I like having Star Wars explained to me.
I think we first talked almost 4 years ago. I joined your guys' Patreon, and I think you messaged me and was like, "Oh my God, I'm a big fan," and I was immediately like, "I want to do anything with Mark," and being across the world, that hasn't happened. But then we kind of the same thing happened on Twitter the other day, and I was like, "No,
exactly,
this time it's gonna happen," and I have the perfect thing to do.
I'd almost forgotten that we had touched base 4 years ago but I mean, at that time, I didn't have a PC. I wasn't streaming. Doing this would have been it would have been a nightmare for me. Honestly, the technicality of jumping on Discord and playing a game or doing something just would have broken my little brain. So I feel like it's been a long 4 years, but a good way, because now we're going to do it right.
It's the perfect time now. And of course, we are going to talk about Star Wars, but I seriously do want to gush about Big Ol' House of Fun for a second, because
oh really?
God, it was so funny. I've watched it twice so far, and I watched it twice in the same day.
That's so kind of you. Thank you.
So good. I mean, how is it feeling to be a Netflix star now?
Well, let's not go crazy, but there's some nutso stuff happening. The response has felt overwhelmingly positive. Of course, we get the same sort of stuff that we get on YouTube anytime we go big on YouTube, which is you get a couple of people who are just like, "This is the worst thing I have ever seen," and just unequivocally, "This is not funny," right? But comedy is subjective, and also I've always, my whole life, I've always wanted to make art that is divisive, because the stuff I've always loved has been that divisive. Things like Tim and Eric, for example, is probably the biggest one that comes to mind, where I was just obsessed with them when I found out about them just as I was finishing high school. I was completely fucking obsessed. I'm so sorry. I was completely obsessed. And anyone I showed it to despised it and was just couldn't understand how anyone, let alone me, found it funny. So if we've managed to do that with our show, that's very exciting to me, because that's the stuff I grew up on and loved. And it feels that way. It's just that there's more people saying they hate it now because we're on a larger platform, But I've got friends in New York who walked down to Times Square the other day and sent us a video of our billboard in Times Square. And that was my brain melted, man. That stuff is wow, huge kind of ridiculous things are happening that I didn't even dream of, because I didn't even think dreaming of it was a fair thing to do to myself. So it's been great. Thank you for saying you've watched it twice. We've had a lot of that. A lot of people have been like, I'm on my second or third rewatch, which is such a compliment, such a huge compliment. So it's been great.
That's awesome. I mean, we watched it. My wife and I watched it early on Wednesday, and then we hopped on Discord with our friends later that night. And I was like, "Oh, it's great," because they all know Aunty Donna, and then we were just on Discord watching YouTube sketches together. And then we were like, "What are we doing? We just watched the Netflix series together right then." And it was a great night. We all just laughing as if we were together again.
Yeah. That's so cool to hear, man. That's so cool to hear. We've been so lucky, and the show. I'm so proud of the show, impossibly proud of it, because Netflix, when we're making it with Netflix, we didn't really get a lot of notes on tone or style or content, you know. So it is heavy with Australian references. It's heavy with references to the university we all studied at, which is literally, there's like 50 people who will understand those jokes and those references, right? There's references that are specifically Victorian, because I live in Victoria, one of the bottom states in Australia, one of the southern states in Australia. And then there's sort of like general Australian ones. And we never got notes about that. We never got, that doesn't make sense. That's not going to appeal to a world market. The notes we got from Netflix were always like very structural. You know, this sketch is going on for too long. Sometimes we got notes from them and our producers that was like, this isn't weird enough. And when we were getting those notes, I was like, I love you, Netflix. I love you, Netflix. So episode 4, which is about dating, the theme around that episode is dating. That was originally episode 2. And when we'd first written it, it was just Broden going on a date. And there was a few other differences. And they said to us, they were like, this isn't weird enough. All the other shows are weird and they take these great left turns. And this one feels a little vanilla compared to the others. So we're like, all right. So we went back to the writer's room and we're like, it's all 3 of us going on the date. And we're going to put Moogie Woogie in it, which is this bizarre podcast character that's literally all they say is Moogie Woogie, right? And we made all these changes to make it weird. And then we got to the edit and we put it together and they were like, it's too weird. For episode 2, it's too weird. Let's bump it to episode 4, please.
Oh, well, I like that it wasn't like, it's too weird, let's not do it. It's like, let's just move it down the line.
Yeah, because it's like, a thing is, like, episode 2 apparently is where people make their choice about whether they're going to keep watching or not. So you don't want to freak them out too much. You don't want to have a scene where a man mimes out an entire saga of him going home and making love to his partner. You don't want that in episode 2. You might want to think of putting something else there.
Oh, finally! Wow. So, yeah. Okay. If
here we go. We're in the game.
Yeah. If you've never seen this show before, we're supposed to be playing Star Wars Squadrons while we talk, but I assume being literally on opposite sides of the world, the matchmaking might take a second.
Yeah. Now I've only played a little bit of this, but I'm aware of what the spaceships do in Star Wars, and I've played a lot of like Rogue Squadron and Battlefront and stuff. The only one, what is the U? What can you break down the U-wing for me? Oh, it's a support ship. Oh, so it's like a healer.
Exactly.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay, well, we're searching for a game again after the first lobby failed, but you had a very smooth transition into talking about other Star Wars games. You obviously are a huge Star Wars nerd, so what was your introduction to Star Wars like? When did you first get into it?
So I feel I love the way I got into Star Wars, right? Because I got to fall in love with Star Wars at the cinema, right? Because when I was, how old was I? When I was like 9. When I was 9 in 1997, the special editions came out into the cinema. Right? The 20th year anniversary special editions, right? And I remember all 3 of them. Like, I've got this memory burnt into my brain of going to my local cinema and seeing like Star Wars A New Hope, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars Return of the Jedi up on the cinema board in the session times, right? So the first time I ever saw Star Wars, I got to experience it in the cinema as a kid, you know. And when I think about that now, it's like I had that sort of experience that people in 77 had, where you were just blown away by something that was so... Like, because still at that time, nothing really like Star Wars had been done again, or had, like, you know, hit that because, you know, now we've got Marvel and now we've got other things that maybe have done that for kids that Star Wars did for people in the past. But I feel like I got to get smashed with it again. So it was just an awesome experience. It was an awesome experience. And then, of course, you know, we got them all on VHS and then wore the tapes out. And then a couple of years later, the prequels started coming out. And so I watched them, you know, I went to midnight screenings through high school and stuff to watch those. It was just, that's how I ended up falling in love. That's how I started falling in love with it anyway.
But that's, we are very close to the same age. And so that's kind of, I always think that I got to join the Star Wars fandom at the perfect time because 97 we got to see the movies. 2 years later the prequels start to come out, and we were like still young enough that we were just like, yes, this is amazing, and didn't have any of the reaction that some of the older fans had.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I didn't know. And when I was about to say Phantom of the Opera, when the Phantom Menace came out, I was just a little boy, and I had a great time at the cinema watching that. You know, I look back on it now, and I have some, as a writer and as someone who wants to make things, I have a little bit of a different perspective on it. But as a kid, I was like, lightsabers!
Exactly.
Darth Maul! Like, it was sick.
There's something, I was listening to you were on... friend of the show, Steel Wars. You did his podcast a few years back, and so I was like, I should listen to this for research because I'm a professional. And you talked about turning your adult brain off and just kind of like enjoying the Star Wars that's put in front of you. And I absolutely think that sometimes you just got to do that.
Yeah, 100%. Especially, I think I was talking about that in regards to Return of the Jedi. Where, as a kid, it was always my favorite, right? And then I got older and I started to analyze it more, and I was like, I actually don't think I like it that much. I'm dead already. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna try my hardest here.
That's the point of this show.
But God, oh my God, what was I saying? Oh, this is so intense. It was Return of the Jedi. It was always my favorite as a kid, right? And then I got older and I was like, I don't know if I love it as much. But if I turn my brain off, it is my favorite because it's got Ewoks, which are cute. They're cute as hell, and I love that. And you know, it repeats itself a little with the second Death Star, but I just have to be like, don't worry about that, you know? But also it has my favorite scenes out of any of those early Star Wars films. Like, still, the Luke and Vader stuff is so dark. It's so dark when you think about it. And it's so cool that it's in there, but it does feel like it's sort of oscillating between being a movie that's that's doing something very deep and very dark and very emotional, which I love. I love that in my Star Wars. But then it's also a film for little babies. And that's okay. I think that's okay. As an adult, I go, I don't like that. But as a kid, I'm getting everything I want out of that movie. I'm getting lighthearted fun and silliness, right? But I'm also getting that sort of like, oh my God, this is actually genuinely quite spooky and terrifying and emotionally resonant, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I kind of meant about turning my brain off.
Sure. What would you say is your favorite Star Wars story at all? Not necessarily a movie, but
oh, it's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Because I definitely think, most people would say, Empire is just a perfect sci-fi film, in my opinion. I love everything about that. But in recent times, man, Star Wars Legends, I've come to really like the comic series. That's really, really cool. And when I because I just personally wasn't a huge fan of the sequel trilogy.
Sure.
Of the Disney sequel trilogy. And when I reread Legends, I was like, oh man, there's so much interesting stuff here. It's very adult, so I understand why that maybe wasn't the pitch for it. But have you read Star Wars Legends?
Oh yeah.
Legacy
or Legacy, you mean?
Sorry, not Legends. Legacy. I'm such a doofus. Legacy. It's the whole thing about I love that it kind of does what the new Watchmen series did, which just sets it way in the future. You know, everything that happened in the original trilogy is but a memory, but the echoes of it still exist.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's about Luke Skywalker's grandson or great-grandson,
Cade.
and he's a bounty hunter, and it's so dark and it's so just like interesting, and you know, and it's about that call. He's like, you know, trying to forget about the fact that he's got this legacy of the Skywalkers behind him, and he just wants to forget about that and do his own thing. But then he's basically pushed into a corner, and it's like, duty calls. You have to become who you are, and it's just such a fascinating story. So that's very high for me in terms of my favorite. But in recent times as well, Mandalorian is just, it's just phenomenal. And the new season, I am loving, absolutely loving, and so keen to see where it goes. So
have you seen the most recent episode?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good.
Yes, I have. Yeah, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Me too.
It's another one, like, I'm a little bit chomping at the bit at the moment to get to sort of what they set up at the end of the first episode. Spoilers, but like, I'm a bit like, when's Boba Fett coming back into this? Or is he? I hope he is, because I really hope he is, because I love Boba Fett. And you know, the last two episodes have just been that very cowboy-esque, serialized, single adventure. It's all got a beginning, middle, and end, and not, you know, progressing the overall narrative a little bit. But oh man, I hope we get to some Boba Fett stuff soon, because I am so excited for it. But yeah, the first season, the finale of the first season was like one of the best Star Wars things I've ever seen. After I watched the first episode of Mando, I was like, I think I've fallen back in love with Star Wars, because I was a little shaky with the Disney stuff, and I haven't been sure where it was going or what they were doing with it. And again, I didn't love the sequel trilogy, but when I saw that, when I saw the first episode of the new season of Mando, and then I watched the last season of Clone Wars,
yeah,
I was like, I'm turning into a fanboy again, big time. Filoni, give me more Filoni. Just Filoni me up to the absolute, to my breaking point. I want to get overwhelmed with Filoni.
Well, and the fact that now, like after yesterday's episode, like that Bo-Katan stuff just
that was so cool.
The show
Wasn't that cool?
Yeah, it keeps doing things that I'm like, I cannot believe we're actually getting to see this, like, in live action.
Yeah. I love that Filoni's very much just gone, I've created so much of a world and I've done so much stuff, and it feels like second season they're letting him run with that. You know, like first season felt a bit more, all the references were to older Star Wars stuff or more general Star Wars stuff that more general fans would have known. And this feels like they've allowed Filoni to go, okay, the section of Star Wars lore that you have created, you can bring that into this live action stuff. And that's super exciting. Super exciting.
And not only that, but like the Cobb Vanth stuff in the first episode, I was flipping out over that, and still am. I've got my Cobb Vanth cardboard cutout behind me.
Oh really? Oh yes, there it is. Because he's in Aftermath, right? I think I remember I bought Aftermath at like when I was touring once. I bought it just in like a airport bookstore, and read through it pretty quick. Don't remember a lot of it, but when I was watching it, I was like, this is familiar, and I didn't fully. Then I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, right. I want you to know, in the game, I am doing nothing but flying out and getting killed immediately. I haven't seen an X-wing. I don't know if I'm shooting at the right stuff. I am not helping, and if we're losing, it's my fault. Just so you know. Just so you know.
Give a TIE bomber a shot. They're a little chunkier. They take more damage, so that's what I'm flying right now, actually.
All right, well that's good to know. I want to try and take out at least one At least one TIE fighter. I haven't seen a single TIE fighter.
Do you know how to target? Oh, I don't know how to do it on mouse and keyboard.
I think it's T. I think I hold T. Yeah, the mouse and keyboard was not the smartest decision of my life, but I couldn't get the other thing working. So I was like, this is what I'm gonna have to do, and I'm living with that decision, regretting it, but living with it. Okay. Oh look. Oh, we're defending. We're doing well. But yeah, what about you? What's your favorite? I'd love to know your favorite Star Wars story.
Oh, I mean, yeah. A New Hope is the one that's kind of like my gold standard. That's the one that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
But for me, more recently, Fallen Order, the game that came out last year.
Oh,
I loved that game to death.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't been able to play that.
But I mean, Mandalorian is also definitely turning into something that just, again, it's stuff that I never thought that I would get to see as a Star Wars fan, where it's like, it feels like they're fulfilling that promise of, yeah, the books and the comics and everything matters, and those TV shows that you watched, like, we're tying it all together, and it feels so good.
That's how when Boba Fett turned up, right, at the end of the new episode, of the season premiere, I was like, my reaction was like, Filoni is rewarding me for all the stuff I've had to sit through that maybe hasn't been that great, right? Like, in my opinion, because like, I loved how they revealed Boba Fett. That to me was like huge and so well done, because it's complete fan service, right? And fan service can be good or bad. Mostly, I've only ever seen fan services sort of bad or badly done. And this was the first time where it was like, you're getting the most popular character that everyone loves, you're putting him in your show, but the way you did it was so cool and so classy and so, like, watching that with my partner, who isn't a huge Star Wars fan, but knows who Boba Fett is, right? Watched that and didn't know what the hell was going on, right?
Sure.
Got the sense that there's this reveal of someone, but didn't know who it was or what it was. But if you've sat through the prequels, if you've, in my opinion, endured the prequels, right? For me, it was like, it's that paid off. It's paid off because I got it. I got what they were doing, you know? And the fact that he was riding a land speeder that was made out of Anakin's old pod racer, right? Like, all that stuff was like, it's so deep and well, it's not that deep, but
deep cut.
It's like it's a bit of a deep cut, The Boba Fett thing's maybe a little bit more, but it was like, he's obviously such a fan and he knows so much about the lore, and he obviously loves all eras of Star Wars, and that love that Filoni has for it shines through. And that's really cool. Being a fan and getting to see all of that is really cool, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think
of that makes sense.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's true about Star Wars all the time, of just like, yeah, you know what? Sometimes you're not going to enjoy... Oh, God. I just crashed. You're not going to enjoy every single story, but I think Star Wars is a universe that almost always brings stuff back around, where it's like, hey, you know, I didn't really like that movie the first time I saw it, or that game or book or whatever, but so many times they will take something from it and just make you appreciate it that much more.
Yeah, definitely. See, it's been a real thrill, you know, and I can't wait till next week, where I think we see Ahsoka, which is going to be crazy.
I'm actually going to guess that we're not going to see Ahsoka yet. That's just my... oh, no, either way. I don't think... I think they're going to drag that out a little bit longer. Kind of like Boba Fett. I think they're going to tease some good stuff. Ahsoka, I do think, will be in the season, but I think it's going to be more than one episode.
Maybe she won't be in it until the finale or something. Like, maybe it's going to be very difficult for him to get to her. I don't know, but it's so cool. I love that she's in it. It's just like such a cool move. Oh man, I'm so excited, especially after that last season of the Clone Wars. Like, it was, because like, a lot of the Clone Wars is very Saturday morning cartoon, and a lot of it I liked but didn't love. But then this final season, especially the last 4 episodes, I felt like they went as adult as you could have gone. And the way the action was done, and the fact that they mocapped the lightsaber fights, and how far the animation style had developed, it was perfect. It was perfect Star Wars stuff. Man.
Well, I
was gushing.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that stuff. So Clone Wars, you're right. Originally, it was Saturday morning cartoon, like for kids, because it was for like a younger demographic. But that show gets darker as it goes on. It ages up with its audience, and now, season 7, like the people that grew up with the Clone Wars are in their 20s, like at the youngest. So they're like, we're going to go more adult with it. And I think that's true of probably every era of Star Wars. Like, the sequel trilogy, I think, was aimed to bring in a new generation. And it feels like the books, the comics, The Mandalorian, these TV series they're doing, I think that's almost going to be, like, the stuff that sustains us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Well, I hope that with the new movies, like with Taika Waititi doing a new movie, which is like so exciting, because his, like that finale of Mandalorian,
so
I just freaked out, like, because I've been a big Taika Waititi fan since I was like in high school when I first saw Boy, the second feature film he ever did, and then, you know, what he did with Marvel was, like, really cool and really exciting. I'm not a huge fan of the, like, smaller one-off Marvel films. I love the Avengers sort of sagas. I think they're really well done, like, just crazy epic storytelling, you know. Like, kind of like, it feels like what maybe it would have felt like to watch Ben-Hur when Ben-Hur first came out, you know? I really liked that. But I thought what he did was really cool. And just the way he's able to bring sort of his storytelling, his humor, his sentimentalities to like the big studio system, which I think gets lost on a lot of like kind of more esoteric filmmakers. You know how they had like what's his face was originally doing Ant-Man. Edgar Wright was originally doing Ant-Man, but then obviously it was like, oh, I just want to make an Edgar Wright film, and Marvel's like, well, you kind of have to make a Marvel film, and then they have falling out, and that happens constantly with these big studios when they get interesting filmmakers. But someone like Taika's really fascinating, because I feel like he's worked out how to navigate through those big studios and still make something that's really interesting to his tone, to his style, and just tells like a great story.
Yeah,
you know.
Oh, there was. Did you watch the gallery, the behind-the-scenes thing that they did for The Mandalorian?
Oh no, I haven't watched that yet.
You'd probably really like it. But Taika says something I liked a lot. It was like, Star Wars isn't always serious, but it does always take itself seriously. So like,
that's amazing.
Yeah. Like that's Star Wars is so goofy, but it doesn't treat itself as goofy, and I love that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that was my problem with the Last Jedi, if I may level some criticism, was that I felt like there were times when it didn't take itself seriously, and it went into the goofiness a little too much. And that's such a great point, because it's not about stripping it of humor. It's not about making it devoid of fun. That's absolutely a huge part of Star Wars, and always has been. Like, you know, like with the droids, with C-3PO and R2-D2, they're silly. They're silly characters, you know?
Yeah.
But the world, the environment, the stakes, what's happening is always very grounded and very human. He's so smart. He's so smart. I'm in love with him.
Well, that's like, I love that take on Star Wars, and it's weird, the more Star Wars stories that we get, especially from different filmmakers, and I kind of knew the second they were like, yeah, we're gonna do more movies, I was like, oh boy, like that just means some of them I'm gonna love to death and some of them I won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that there's plenty of room for those movies that just like, yeah, they don't always land with me, but
yeah,
no,
yeah,
okay.
definitely. Oh God! All right, look, I think I'm about to kill a Y-wing. I think I'm about to kill my first Y-wing. I'm trying. It's hard. The mouse and the keyboard was a mistake. I don't know if I got him. I got an assist. That's very exciting for me. With this big do we just shoot it anywhere?
Okay, so yes, you can. If you see these like venting gases, do you see that?
Oh yes, yeah.
Those are weak points that you can hit, and it'll do like extra damage.
Sweet. All right, that is so great to hear. Oh my God, this game is very cool, but very confusing.
Well, I mean, this is what, the second time you've picked it up?
It is the second time I picked it up. All right, I'm going to switch to a bomber. All right, here we go. You suggested to do that a long time ago. Do you drop a bomb like how it happens in Star Wars? Does it come out of your booty?
Yeah, it'll go straight out your butt.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic to hear. All right. And oh no.
So did you grow up playing video games as well? Star Wars video games?
Yeah, did we win?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Go Mark! I'm trying to think of the first experience I had with a Star Wars video game from memory was Shadows of the Empire, which you collabed a little bit with a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Sunday Movies.
Yeah. On
doing a retrospective of Shadows of the Empire. Probably one of my favorite things I've seen on the internet. I loved it so much. It was just really cool and really well done and really thought out. So thank you for helping him out. We all know he doesn't know that much about Star Wars.
It's always I always like think that, oh well, just because they're Australian doesn't mean they all know each other. But then it's like all the Australians I know do know each other. So.
Do know each other. Well, it's that thing in Oz when you start making stuff. If it gets to a certain level, if you reach a certain sort of peak, it's not that big of a country, and it does get around. And if you are in that world, usually eventually you'll run into each other, because there's a lot of people that I know, and especially from the online world, and it's literally just been because we all become mutual fans of each other, because you hear among the grapevine that there's this great thing that's happening and it's Australian, and Aussies I think a lot of the time want to be like, oh well I got to watch that, because we don't have as many people doing it,
right?
Essentially. So yeah. So that's cool. We do know each other. I did a podcast with him just the other week, which was really fun. Went to his house, saw his things. It was very exciting. But I'm trying to think of what else. Like, I've got great memories of playing Rogue Squadron. Like when I had an N64, I just ate up everything Star Wars that I could. But then I stopped playing games for a very long time, and I only really picked up video games and gaming maybe 3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And the way that happened was my partner for Christmas bought me a PS4, a Star Wars PS4 with Darth Vader on it when Battlefront, the new Battlefront came out. And I played the hell out of that game, man. I loved it. It was genuinely feeling like a little kid again, like being on the Hoth map and jumping into a snow speeder and like taking down the AT-ATs and stuff. It was so thrilling, and doing that with my mates. We'd get four of us together, and oh, it was a thrill. And then Battlefront 2 didn't do it for me as much, because I feel like it didn't have... I can't believe they took that mode out. I can't believe they took out Walker Assault, and that you couldn't go in the Hoth and take down an AT-AT, which is just the most exciting thing to do in a Star Wars video game. It's so cool. It's the battle. You know what I mean? It's the most iconic battle.
That's why it's in every Star Wars game, except for Battlefront 2, I guess.
Except for Battlefront 2. Like, what the heck, man? But also I'm just a bit of a purist, and like it didn't have as much original trilogy content, whereas I love that the first Battlefront was just original trilogy, and the nostalgia that it made me feel, which I know is like probably the biggest reason I loved and played that game, but having said that, I do think it was actually a fun game, albeit not the best release. Oh, hello. Who's this? Oh, wait, is that someone in the game chatting to us?
Oh, yeah, you might have voice chat on.
Oh, you do? I'm so sorry. I have voice chat on.
I can't hear him.
Oh, that's so funny. Someone was just like, hello? And I thought they jumped into this Discord. And I was like, that's terrifying. All right, voice chat is off now. That won't happen again, my friend.
No, I've actually invited a bunch of critics of Aunty Donna to just hop into the Discord and yell at you whenever.
Good move.
Just keep you on your toes.
I'm ready for it. I've read all the 1-star reviews on Internet Movie Database.
Isn't that like, you just can't help but sometimes seek that stuff out?
I see. I have a very interesting relationship with criticism. It really doesn't affect me when the art is criticized. In fact, I welcome it, and I love it when it's just super negative, like where it's like, I watched this for 10 seconds and I had to switch it off because I've never hated anything more in my life. Like I said, when people have that reaction to something I've created, and then people are also like, this is a masterpiece. Both I think are unreasonable,
right?
But I appreciate both, right? And what I don't like is when sometimes they'll attack us, me in particular, personally for the way that we look. And I'm like, that's unnecessary. You're just a mean-spirited person. And that can sometimes genuinely affect me. But when you talk about my art, which is subjective and meant to cause like a visceral reaction, go for it. I love it. I absolutely love it. I welcome it.
I'm ready.
All right.
This is Vanguard 1.
So same deal here. I've got a Y-Wing. Are you a Y-Wing?
I went A-Wing for now. I'll probably hop into a Y-Wing later.
You're going to be very zippy. You're going to be zipping through.
Yeah, I'm going to zip around. I'm gonna try to... Actually, I'll just stick near you.
Okay.
I'll see if
I wouldn't do that. I'll make things bad for you. Oh shit. Oh, okay. Oh, that's the proton torpedo button. I think.
So we were talking earlier about just like...
Yeah.
Oh wow, we got that fast. Turning off your adult brain.
Turn off your brain?
What is your favorite, like, just goofy, silly, off-the-wall thing in Star Wars?
In Star Wars?
Yeah.
That's an absolute wonderful question. I'm still a bit of a... I don't think there has been any comedic characters in Star Wars that are as good as the R2-D2 C-3PO combo in the original trilogy. Like, it's genuinely funny. And how George Lucas wrote, like, genuinely funny characters, I don't know. Because I would not consider George Lucas a great comedy writer. I think he's a great thinker. I think he's got some amazing ideas. But is he a comedy writer? I don't know. But those... And I don't think there's anything else quite like them. Like, again, when I think about, like, Marvel movies and stuff, I think there's, which is kind of like the closest comparison for a lot of this stuff in terms of modern, big-budget, epic storytelling. They have a lot of goofs, they have a lot of gags, right? And kind of every character, most characters get their funny, goofy moment.
Sure.
But what's amazing in Star Wars, what I love, especially about the original trilogy, is like Han Solo is very dry, but he's not necessarily funny or goofy, right? Luke and Leia take themselves very seriously, especially Luke. He's like, he does not muck around, that guy. There's not a goofy moment in him. But R2D2 and C3PO are just this perfect comedy duo of this like uptight butler and then this just like dirty little thing that just makes like obviously is just making the most abhorrent like stabs at people and is very rude and is super cynical, you know, and doesn't talk. You don't actually hear anything that they're saying. Comedically, as someone who considers themselves to be a comic writer, I don't think it gets better than that, you know? And I would argue that even those Marvel films don't have that. And there's nothing on that scale, on that level, that I think has even come close to how perfectly those characters are created and executed, in my humble little opinion. Bit of a stock answer, but I feel very passionately about that. You know?
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Who would you say is your favorite? This is one of my favorite questions to ask people. Who's your favorite like B or C tier character? Just like not a Luke or Leia, Han, like no Darth Vaders, but who's your favorite side character that you don't think gets enough attention?
Dr. Aphra.
Yeah?
I love Dr. Aphra. I'm a huge fan of the like solo comic series.
Yeah.
I've read bits and pieces of when she sort of came in the Vader comics, but when I got into the Vader comics, they'd sort of rebooted it and moved on, and that's also some of my favorite Star Wars comic stuff. But the solo Dr. Aphra series is like phenomenal, and not enough people know about her, and I would love to see her get the attention I think she deserves in like a Mandalorian-esque series.
Yeah.
Which I heard a little while ago they're developing, and it broke my heart because I was like, I want to do that. like I've got, and this is so silly. Thank you for the shield.
You're welcome. I'm just hiding behind you, and I'm gonna try to keep you alive.
Okay,
oh well, God! I said as you're exploding.
Oh God, no! It still says I'm 100. It still says I'm 100.
You're alive. I just like there were a lot of explosions coming off of you right there.
Oh, right. Yeah, like, because I know I'm a goofball, and I imagine if people watched the Aunty Donna series, they would think and probably assume correctly that I'd have no business doing anything like Star Wars-esque, right? But the place I want to go sort of with my career is in that sort of Taika Waititi style. Oh God, I want to emulate those sorts of careers.
Yeah.
Right. And I would love in my later years, maybe in my 40s or maybe in my 50s, to be able to tell stories within the franchises that I love and that, you know, I grew up with. And I've got like a breakdown, a very loose breakdown of what I do with the Dr. Aphra series. Because when I was reading the comics, I was just so inspired by it, and I love the way that it folds into like the original trilogy mythos and stuff, and like that's the stuff that really grabbed me and made me obsessed with it. You know, these side characters that are seemingly going about their own business, and then boom, all of a sudden, you know, they've run into something that's happened in A New Hope, you know, or they're there at the aftermath. Like there's a bit, I think it's in like the 3rd or 4th issue of the Dr. Aphra series. Maybe it's after the end of the first. I don't know when it is, but it was the moment I got hooked. Was when she's just going about her thing, and then she finds out there's this artifact that she has to go grab. And she's like, all right, so she's traveling through the galaxy and she's trying to get there. And then at the end of the issue, she lands on the planet, she peels back this bush to see it, and it's the temple on Yavin, and it's like been occupied by stormtroopers, so it's like right after they would have blown up the Death Star and had their ceremony, and then the Empire would have been like, where are them, found them, and then, so all that is assumed, and you just get this splash page of her seeing the temple, it's fully occupied, and you're like, oh my God! everything that's been happening that I've been reading has been happening while they've been trying to blow up the Death Star, and this is just post that. And then you're like, and up until then, it hasn't really given you full context for where the series is set. And so then it all comes together on this one splash page, and it's like, I love that. I love that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that, as a fan, really gets me excited. And yeah, so she's my absolute favorite. I love her stories. I love the way that she's just constantly betraying everyone to the point where you're like, you are a bad person. Yeah. And a character that's deplorable. Like, Han Solo is a smuggler with a heart of gold, and she's a smuggler, and she does not have a heart of gold.
Accurate, yes.
That is super appealing to me. Super appealing to me. In terms of the complexity of the character and the kinds of stories you could tell with and about that, is that she's just letting everyone, especially the audience, she's constantly letting them down because she's so selfish. Something like that's never been told in Star Wars before. I think that's why it appealed to me so much.
I acted surprised when you said Afra. I guess I was just hoping that was still your answer. But, like, again, you were talking about Afra back in your Steel Wars thing, and I knew, I was like, we're going to have a good talk.
Oh, was I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was still, and that's when it was, like, new.
Yeah, it was, like,
I'd only sort of, like, I'd only just discovered Afra around then. So that's super interesting. I'd forgotten completely that I'd talked about. That was so long ago. Oh, God, did I kill someone? I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying my hardest. I'm sorry if I'm letting the team down.
We're doing pretty well.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great to hear. I'm trying to fire these proton torpedoes.
You're doing great.
I think that's what I'm doing. Thanks, man.
But yeah,
oh, yes,
I mean,
you resupplied me.
I was excited that you read the books and comics. I was like, yes, like, someone who...
Yeah, I'm into it.
I'm going to be able to talk to that. Like, I mean, just most people don't, which is fine. Like, don't want to, like, be any gatekeeping over here, but I'm just excited to hear that you're into that stuff.
Well, yeah, for me, it was like, I've always been, well, not always been, but, like, have gotten quite into Star Wars, gotten quite into comics, sorry, over the last little while. And when I was sort of not really feeling the Disney films, I didn't know where to go for Star Wars stuff. And then when I started learning about, all the things that, all the kinds of stories that have been told in comics, in the Star Wars universe, it's sort of where I retreated to fill that gap in my life, because I needed something. And I felt like I wasn't getting it out of the films anymore. So I haven't fully deep dived into things. But the stuff that I have read and the stuff that I have gotten into, like that newer Darth Vader series that came out, which I think the first sort of arc told the story about Vader getting his lightsaber.
Right, yeah.
Finding his lightsaber.
Man, that series is fantastic.
Incredible. The whole series was like, I was just like, this is where Star Wars is gonna live for me for the next little while.
Oh, I love that attitude. Like, I mean, that's what I tell people. Like, in the past, 5-6 years of Star Wars content, the movies, I've enjoyed them well enough, but my favorite Star Wars stories have not been the films. They've been coming from the video games and the TV series, and Star Wars is so much more than just the movies, that if you're not satisfied by one thing, like, you can almost always find what you want somewhere else.
Definitely. It's so big, it's so expansive, and I haven't read, for a long time, I haven't read any of the novels, but when I was a little younger, when I was in high school, I was really obsessed with I'd go to the library, like I go to my local library kind of every weekend, and just get out whatever novel they had based, and there was one, I can't remember the name of it. It might have been called Rise of the Empire, but it was about Darth Vader, and it took place right after Rise of the Sith. Maybe it was Rise of the Sith.
It's Rise of something. Might be Rise of the Dark Lord or something like that.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it's Rise of the Dark Lord, and it's just about Vader and just a concept that I thought was brilliant at the time. I was like, this is so cool that it's like Order 66 happened, not everyone died, not all the Jedis died, some escaped, and like the Clone Wars final season looked into that as well, which was cool. But this was my first experience of like that happened, and it's about Vader hunting down Jedi, right? And a back and forth between Vader's point of view and a Jedi, and that's escaping. I can't remember what Jedi it was. I'd be interested to go back and read about that now, actually. But I thought that was incredible and really cool. But the one moment that's always stuck with me, do you remember the epilogue to that book? The sort of like post.
Oh man, I don't think.
The thing like.
It's been a long time since I've read that book.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the thing that's always stuck with me, that I've always been like, this is the coolest stuff ever, right? Where it takes place in a bar in Tatooine. And it's just talking about the bar and what's going on in the bar, and then it focuses in on Obi-Wan, who's in the bar, and he's sitting in the corner, and he's watching over his shoulder, and a very young Luke Skywalker is there with his auntie and his uncle. Yeah. And so he's there and he's just keeping watch, right? But he's not making himself known. He's just sort of like checking it out. And then from my memory, Luke and his family get up and they leave the bar. And then Obi-Wan gets to get up and leave. And then something comes on the TV and they show an image of Darth Vader, right? And the news is like, who is this guy? Where is this dude come from? He looks like to be the Emperor's right-hand man.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan like drops his drink and realizes in that moment that it's Anakin, and Anakin isn't dead.
I really hope the Kenobi series deals with exactly that.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool to have that moment in it? Like, it gives me tingles even thinking about it, because I love that. I love looking into the lore in that way. It's like, I was having that realization where it was like, of course, Obi-Wan would have thought that Anakin was dead for such a long time, and he would have found that out somehow, and when he did, it would have been really messed up. It would have been horrifying for him. And I just thought that was a really interesting take on how he found out.
Yeah.
I don't know, I love that stuff. The Obi-Wan series I'm so geared for. Like, hoping that they're taking pages out of the Mandalorian's book in terms of tone and who they're pitching it for. I hope it's pitched for someone like me, or towards someone like me. That'll be really cool. I
mean, I think it'll probably be a good bridge for like prequel and sequel fans, because we're gonna get Ewan McGregor. But yeah, I think that I love that seems to be something that everyone is just really looking forward to, no matter what era you came up in.
Because Ewan McGregor, I love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. I thought he was incredible. His acting is incredible. He really holds the whole thing together. I don't know how we're winning. I'm doing nothing.
You're doing great.
I want you to know, I'm doing nothing.
You shot the capital ship. You did capital ship damage. You got 5 kills, 2 assists.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Hey, look at me go. Getting kills. Don't even know about it, mate. Don't even know about it.
Okay, while we load up our last game here, since you've talked about wanting to write about Star Wars someday down the line, what's your Disney Plus pitch? What would you want to do if you could do anything?
Well, aside from the Dr. Aphra series, which would be my first pick, absolutely would be my first pick. Because again, I just think she's such an interesting character, and that type of story that has that sort of emotional weight to it, or that kind of character, has never really been done. So it would be breaking new ground in that sense, I think. Although, the Mandalorian, but I think the Mandalorian is a good person at heart, does what needs to be done and will kill people, but I think is a good character, and you want them to succeed. Whereas it would be interesting to put a character like Dr. Aphra, who is maybe not at their core, well, I would say not at their core, potentially a good person. They're a selfish person, and exploring that really interesting. But the other era that I've always wanted to do is like, I would love to focus on Vader. And I do think that what we spoke about before, because it's something that resonated with me as a kid, that era of Vader hunting down Jedi between 3 and 4, and seeing Vader become the most ruthless, terrifying force in the galaxy, that would be interesting, because that's never really been explored outside of comics and novels. And like I'd love to get Hayden Christensen in to like play Vader when he's got his mask off, and I'd like to do a bit of that kind of stuff. Oh man, that'd be so much fun. That'd be so much fun to play around in that area. I think. Yeah. Because it's, I don't know, it's like I guess it's that development. Like I really want to tell stories where characters that you know sort of change over a period of time, or maybe they start as the character that you know and then they develop into something else. Or like with Vader, it's like, how did he get to that point? Is he still struggling with like morally, is he still struggling with things? That stuff as a writer is really fascinating, really interesting.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Well, I do, like I said, I want to talk about Aunty Donna here at the end, because again, I'm a huge fan. So how was it making that shift from YouTube, where your sketches tend to be like 2-3 minutes long, and then you're going to Netflix, where you're doing like sketches that are kind of self-contained but transition into a new one and into a new one for 20 minutes. Was that challenging? Was it more fun? Like what was the difference there?
It took a lot of failed stuff to get to it. So we made 2 pilots in Oz. Basically, we were always told, or the feedback that we were getting from TV works very differently in Australia. And for people who are as obscure, as niche, as maybe weird as people think we are, I don't think we're that weird, but a lot of people think we're weird. I think that's just what people say when they don't know what to make of it. You know, they go, "Oh, it's weird." I don't know if we're that weird. Maybe we're weird.
It's
maybe
unique.
Maybe my brain is so fried. My brain is so fried. I don't know what weird is anymore. But there's not a lot of straight TV opportunities in Australia. We only have like 3 networks that have money to like make content. Even then, they buy a lot of overseas content and don't make a lot of Australian content. But because our population is so small, they're a lot more risk adverse. The networks that are risk adverse are government funded, and lately, because of the people that we've had in power in this country, the government that we've had, their funding has constantly been stripped, constantly been pulled. So they have far less money than they have before. So now they can't make as much stuff. They still do take risks, but they can't make as much stuff as they have in the past. But then we also have incredible government bodies, like we've got one in Australia called Screen Australia, who have been massive supporters of us. And we wouldn't be where we are today without them. They've funded things like 1999 and Glen Ridge. You know, we've pitched to them, they've given us the money to make that. And this is a government body that essentially just, you know, and it's open to anyone. And they've been super supportive of us and how kind of weird and we are, and it's never been a problem for them. And I'm getting my ass absolutely handed to me in this dogfight, but that's okay. If I can kill one person, I'll be happy. So through our journey of like, you know, making web stuff with the incredibly supportive Screen Australia, and and trying to get pilots up with other networks, we were always, with the pilots in particular, when we were making TV stuff, we were always told, you can't just do what you're doing on YouTube.
Yeah.
It has to have another layer, it has to have another element. And we always went down the road, what we always experimented with, or we thought the road we needed to go down was with narrative, right? We were like, we need to flesh out the characters, and we need to have like sitcom-esque characters, and there needs to be a story that people can hold on to. So our first pilot was 50-50. We spent, you know, half the time focusing on the narrative and trying to tell a story, and the other half of the time doing the sketches. And we tried to make the sketches really come out of the narrative and link them to the narrative in a way. And, you know, some people liked it. Some people thought it was good. But when we look back on it now, we spent too much time doing stuff that wasn't fully our strength, right?
Sure.
Which was the narrative. And then with our second pilot, even though we thought that, so I don't know why we did this, with our second pilot, we wrote a sitcom. It was full narrative. There was no sketch in it, right?
Yeah.
It was pure narrative, and it was like us playing chaperones to like a Justin Bieber-esque 10-year-old pop star, right? A really great concept, and it could have been really funny, but in its final execution, we were like, it's not focusing on our strength. Our strength is sketch. So when it came time to developing an American project with the producers that we had and them seeing the pilots that we'd done that hadn't, you know, been the strongest, it was like, well, how do we find a way to really, really just focus on what we're good at? And what we came up with is what you see on Netflix. Like, it was, okay, so let's try and give the audience something to hold on to by thematically, thematically linking the sketches, you know? So we still have the opportunity to do whatever we want, but we're writing within a sandbox. And we learnt that, you know, that sandbox stuff really works for us with things like 99, with things like Glen Ridge. It's like, let's give ourselves a single location, because that not only helps budgetarily, because, you know, we didn't have a huge amount of money, I mean, more money than we ever worked with, but still, like, you know, we didn't have the money to make every sketch a different location, and not that we'd want to do that really, but it was like, let's set it all in a house, and then on top of that, let's give every sketch, or let's give every episode a place, a thing, you know, that it can come off to help us write, and for the audience to like link things and make it a bit more satisfying than just a straight sketch show, right? You have a very high score. My score is 0. I want you to know my score is 0. I'm 3 for 0.
I've played this a lot, arguably too much, but...
But this is just against other players, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. No wonder. No wonder this is what's happening to me. All right. Yeah, it was like, and then honestly, Netflix and our producers helped a lot in terms of the length of the sketches within the episode and sort of what sketches should go in what order. We thought that we'd sort of nailed that in the writing, but then in the editing, we found that we didn't really get it right once, and we had to restructure a lot of the individual episodes as well as the episode order that we'd originally written in. So, you know, Netflix came to us with that sort of that wealth of experience and helped us shape it into something that I think, in my personal opinion, really works.
When I realized that you guys were just transitioning from sketch to sketch, but I don't know, almost seamlessly. Like the everything's a drum to straight into the talking dishwasher and then doing a roll call. I was like,
yeah, it kind of happens without you like fully registering.
Yeah,
right.
I think it works so well.
Oh, thanks, man. That was a really big challenge for us in the writing, or a big goal for us in the writing. Was like we wanted to be able to like fill it with ideas, and we wanted to make it feel like a sketch show, and have it be a sketch show at its core. And when people watch it, go, "I'm not watching a narrative. I am watching a sketch show," but not have to like cut to that Aunty Donna screen where it just says Aunty Donna, right, and there's images flashing between every single sketch. we wanted to use that as a device,
Uh-huh.
but not the device, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe we can transition between sketches with other little jokes, or maybe rather than finding a punchline for a sketch, we can seamlessly put it into another idea. For example, we didn't know how to end the roll call housemate interview sketch without just ending it, right?
Yeah.
Or traditionally, you'd come up with some sort of witty punchline that ties the whole thing together, right?
Uh-huh.
Because on YouTube, you'd just end on your strongest joke.
Yeah.
You know? You'd put the funniest one at the end and then you'd get the hell out of there. But you can't do that with this. So we had this other little idea about Zach going low res.
Yeah.
And we're like, what if we just do that and the transition is that, you know? And then that way we get another little fun idea in there. We get another fun little goof. We get a fun little gag. And it sort of is connected in like almost a stream of consciousness way to the previous sketch.
Sure.
Yeah. It was so much fun to write. And then when it came together in the edit and it worked, in our opinion, it worked. It was like, this is sick. All right, well, we're the best. No, we didn't think that. We were just very happy that it sort of, to some degree, worked.
Well, on the YouTube side of things, we just got slaughtered, but that's okay. Marty.
Yes, and
okay.
I 0 kills, 0 score, so...
It's okay.
I'll put my hand up, I'll say that was my fault.
On the YouTube side of things, if people haven't watched your YouTube channel, if you could name one sketch to get them into Aunty Donna right now, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so different. People like such different things. Look, we have a playlist. I'll find the name of it right now. And it's sort of the sketches that have been popular or that people have told us is their favorite. And that is a great place to start. A single sketch is difficult, but I would say the series, a good series to wet your whistle, if I may, is probably 1999. Mm-hmm. Then I would potentially say the Rove Tapes and then Glenridge Secondary College. They're good series to start with. Rove Tapes is a little shorter, but they're very nice sort of kind of accessible, shorter, fun ideas. 1999 was one of the first full series that we did that really broke people. But if you go to Aunty Donna, an introduction, that's a really nice short collection of sketches that gives people a pretty good idea about what we do.
Do you have a sketch that you feel is criminally underrated?
Underrated?
Uh-huh.
Ooh. Probably one that doesn't get a lot of talk about now that I absolutely adore is Haven't You Done Well 2? But that's a very special sketch to me because that was like the first lot of sketches that we shot when we went from a quattro to a trio. So we were still pretty nervous and not sure if things were going to work or what the go was there. But also it was one of the first times where when I saw the first cut, when director Max showed me the first cut of it, I was like, oh, we've never done anything like this before. And this is a really interesting style. And I thought everyone was so funny and so good at it. And the way Max injected his comedic personality into the edit really set the stage for so many things that came. So a little underrated, but also a very good look at the DNA of what Aunty Donna is and how we sort of got to where we are.
I really love Haven't You Done Well 6, I think, is the wine one.
Oh, yes.
I love that one.
Yes.
I've shown a lot of friends that one. But if people don't know what that series is, the Haven't You Done Wells, it basically ends with you guys covering yourselves in food, wine, sunscreen, like whatever is available.
Yeah.
If you were to do a Haven't You Done Well set in Star Wars, what would you cover yourself with?
Blue milk.
Yeah.
Milk me up, baby. I want to get that blue milk. I also like that that hyper blue liquid that they're drinking in the cantina.
Oh, the spotchka, yeah.
Yeah, the spotchka. Give me some spotchka. Just give me blues. Give me delicious blues.
Just some bevies with the boys.
I had blue milk at the cantina in Galaxy's Edge. In Disneyland, and it came with a big cookie. It came with a triple tier cookie. I love that blue milk, man. I love that blue milk.
Well, Mark, thank you so much again for hanging out, playing Squadrons with me, talking Star Wars.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where can people?
I had a blast.
Oh, good. Where can people watch Aunty Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun right now, and where can they follow you on YouTube, Twitch, etc.?
If you've got Netflix, search Aunty Donna on Netflix. It'll come up. Hopefully, it's in your trending bit on Netflix, but just search Aunty Donna. It'll come up. It's a lot of fun. I'm super proud of the show. We're just a couple of little dudes from Australia who somehow got this big show up in America. It's ridiculous that it even exists. So please check it out. Aunty Donna is available. We're on Facebook, The Aunty Donna, Twitter, The Aunty Donna Boys, Instagram, The Aunty Donna Gallery or Aunty Donna Gallery, YouTube, Aunty Donna. Check us out. I Twitch stream. I'm on Very Polite Gamer. Come in. It's absolute chaos. Come in, check it out. It's a lot of fun.
I will put links to all of that in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Thank you again so much to Mark. Go watch Big Ol' House of Fun. It is hysterical. Thank you all for watching or listening, depending on where you're accessing this. And as always, may the Force be with you.
And you too, Alex.
And also with you.
And also with you. That's how much of a fan I am.